Okay, so we're about to dive into this incredible story. It's been hidden for almost 100 years, pieced together from these private letters and, secret documents. And what it is, it's basically a blueprint for surviving the end of the world and then building a new one, all created by people who saw the collapse coming, way, way before anyone else was even paying attention. And it all kicks off with this incredibly blunt declaration, February 14th, 2025. This quiet, pretty much unknown group, the Lasting Fellowship, they made what they called a terminal diagnosis. And you gotta understand, this wasn't some kind of protest or a political statement. Nope. It was a cold, hard assessment. And that one moment, it just sets the stage for everything that comes next.
So that just begs the question, right? How could some secret movement in 2025 make such a final, definitive call? Well, the answer, and this is wild, it lies 85 years in the past. It started with a conversation on the eve of World War II. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to trace how that simple conversation turned into a prophecy, and then how that prophecy became a real, concrete plan. All right, first things first. We really need to get our heads around the weight of that 2025 declaration. This wasn't just them, spouting off a political opinion. The fellowship's own internal memos show it was more like a clinical assessment. They had this checklist of specific, pre-identified criteria for when a democracy collapses, and they were just checking the boxes. And what's so fascinating here is just how methodical it all was. These are the 6 collapse criteria they had been tracking for years. I mean, look at the progression. It's so logical. It starts with step 1, dismantling electoral integrity. From there, it's a short jump to step 2, capturing the judiciary. And by the time they saw the government militarizing the police and criminalizing dissent, that's steps 3 and 5, well, for them, the conclusion was just inescapable. The system wasn't a democracy anymore. So, you have to ask, where did a framework this precise, this prophetic even, where did it come from? To figure that out, we have to rewind. We have to go all the way back to the very beginning. Because this entire lasting philosophy, it was born from the minds of 2 really extraordinary friends. So the story kicks off in 1940. It starts with a series of letters between 2 men, Evan Carter, a black real estate investor who was really haunted by his past, and Samuel Klein, a Jewish scholar and his most trusted friend. Their correspondence went on for almost 25 years, and in those letters, they weren't just talking about the world. They were literally designing a way to save it. And this quote from Evan's very first letter, this is really the philosophical heart of the entire movement. He said, "Revenge is loud and short-lived, but justice takes time and vision." Think about that. Evan had been through profound injustice, but he totally rejected the easy path of immediate revenge. He chose something harder, something much longer, building a vision for real, lasting justice. And then you have Samuel the pragmatist, providing that crucial counterpoint. He's the one who said, "Vision without structure is hope dressed in rags." He was the architect, the one who would give Evan's idealistic vision a solid, practical foundation. And that partnership, that perfect balance of prophecy and planning, that was the engine for everything that came after. And this just brilliantly illustrates the combined vision. Evan wasn't dreaming of a political party or some protest group. He imagined a decentralized network, a living philosophy. He described it as a network stretching beneath the surface, like roots of an old tree, silent, deep, impossible to kill. Something that could survive underground, holding the soil together, just waiting for the storm to finally pass. Okay, but how do you actually build a secret network like that without getting discovered? Well, Evan's solution was an act of pure genius. He decided to hide his revolutionary ideas in the one place nobody would ever think to look for a political blueprint. He created an alias, Francis Douglas. See, on the one hand, you had Evan Carter, the respected, quiet investor. But then you had Francis Douglas, this bold science fiction author. His novels were, as Samuel put it, a prophecy in disguise. It was this brilliant form of camouflage that let him smuggle these revolutionary ideas right past the censors of his day. And hidden inside these sci-fi novels, he embedded the core principles of his philosophy, which formed the acronym LASTING. Each one of these principles, liberty, accountability, stewardship, and so on, was woven into the themes, the plots, even into coded messages within these fictional worlds.
He was basically writing a manual for survival and just calling it entertainment. All right, so let's fast forward. Decades pass. Evan and Samuel are long gone, but that hidden root system they created, it endures. It's just there, waiting. And then, when the crisis they predicted finally hits in 2025, the L.A.S.T.I.N.G Fellowship activates. And this was their motto: we grow in the cracks. It wasn't about confronting the regime head on. No, it was about finding the broken places in the system. The food deserts, the schools where history was banned, the silenced communities, and cultivating life right there. It's a philosophy of resilience, not outright rebellion. And this is where you really see that LSTING acronym evolve. It wasn't just a set of hidden virtues from some old novels anymore. It became an active manual, a guide for nonviolent resistance. So love wasn't just a feeling, it became their core ethic. Subvert wasn't about treachery, it was a tactical necessity. Every single word became a direct instruction for how to act in the world. And their methods? They were just so creative. This wasn't about violence. It was about undermining the regime's authority with something they called joyful subversion. I mean, just think about it. Using satirical plays and folk songs to spread dissent, that's step one. Or creating underground schools and mutual aid networks when the state was failing its people. And honestly, my personal favorite is step three: bureaucratic resistance. Can you imagine gumming up the works of a totalitarian state with intentional misfilings and slowdowns? It's brilliant. But just surviving day to day, that was never the endgame. The Fellowship's documents make it really clear they were playing a much, much longer game. They had a vision, not just for how to resist, but for what would come after the fall, for a total, complete rebirth. And this is when Evan's original vision of that root system really came to life. When the old regime finally cracked and fell apart around 2046, there was this massive power vacuum. But the Fellowship wasn't some political party trying to grab power. They were a trusted, decentralized network of care. They were the only ones who were ready and able to help society regrow from the ashes. And this slide, man, this just reveals the sheer brilliance of their vision for transformation. The goal was never to just destroy the old institutions. It was to reclaim them and repurpose them. I mean, imagine a police station becoming a center for healing and reparation, or a courthouse, which was once a tool of the regime, becoming a forum for real reconciliation. It just shows their core belief in transforming systems, not just tearing them down. All of this work eventually culminated in the Bloom Charter of 2055. This was essentially a new framework for governance, built directly on those lasting principles. It emphasized things like distributed power, telling the truth through art, and treating the land with the sacred respect. The secret philosophy of two friends had become the public foundation for a brand new society. And this quote, which comes from one of their Phase 3 planning documents, it just sums up their entire philosophy perfectly. We are not reviving the old republic. We are composting it. They weren't trying to go back. They believed the old republic was fundamentally broken. Their goal was to let it decompose and then use its nutrients to grow something totally new, something healthy and alive. The story of the LASTING Fellowship is just this powerful reminder that the most profound changes, they often begin as these small, patient, almost invisible acts. It started with two friends just writing letters, with a novelist hiding big ideas in plain sight. And it leaves me wondering, and maybe you too, if you were planting a seed for a better future today, a seed that might not even bloom in your lifetime, what would it be?